Let's talk about something I get asked all the time: annual forklift training. It's a huge topic in warehouses and safety meetings pretty much everywhere. And, while the question seems simple, the answer has some pretty surprising twists that could affect your safety, your job, and yeah, even your company's bottom line. So let's just cut right to the chase. Do forklift operators really need to get trained every single year? You've probably heard a hard yes from your safety manager. But let's take a look at what the actual law says.
Believe it or not, the simple, direct answer is no. OSHA, the official governing body for workplace safety, does not have a rule that says you must do forklift training every single year. Kind of surprising, right?
But hang on. Before you run off and cancel your entire training schedule, you really need to understand the details here. Because while it's not a strict annual rule, the reality is a whole lot more complex. And really, it's all about performance.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of what the official regulations actually state. We've got to separate what's become a common workplace myth from the on-the-books reality of what OSHA compliance really looks like.
This lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? The myth, what everybody thinks, is that training is an annual thing. But the reality is that OSHA mandates a performance evaluation at least once every 3 years. And there are some really important exceptions to that rule.
The best way to think about this is that the 3-year cycle is the baseline. It's like the absolute maximum amount of time that can go by between evaluations for an operator who has a totally perfect record. But that cycle can get cut short by a bunch of critical events.
And here they are, the big exceptions. If an operator is seen driving unsafely, boom, they need retraining right away. If they get into an accident or even just a near miss, you guessed it, retraining. Same thing goes if they switch to a new type of truck or if something major changes in the workplace itself, like a new racking system that creates new hazards. In any of these situations, that 3-year clock resets and starts all over again.
So this brings us to a really logical question, right? If it's not a strict annual requirement, why in the world do so many companies act like it is? Well, the answer goes way beyond just checking a box for compliance. So yeah, why would a company invest all that time and money and annual training if the law only demands it every 3 years? It turns out, the smartest companies out there, they aren't just thinking about the bare minimum requirement. It really comes down to 3 huge factors. First up, safety. Plain and simple, annual training just keeps those good habits fresh and stops people from getting complacent. Second, liability. If an accident does happen, having a solid track record of annual training is a really powerful defense. And third, competency. Regular refreshers just make sure your operators are always at the top of their game.
Now, let's talk about what happens when training standards start to slip. The consequences aren't just about safety incidents. They come with some serious financial penalties that can absolutely cripple a business.
Take a good long look at this number. Nope, that is not a typo. This is the potential fine OSHA can hit you with for a single violation of an operator not being properly trained. And trust me, that's just the beginning.
And just look at how these costs can stack up. That nearly $15,000 fine, it applies to not having the initial training or failing to provide the refresher training. Heck, even just having poor records can cost you thousands. And remember, these fines are per incident, so they can multiply really quickly. Okay, so knowing the risks, what does an effective training program actually look like? It's not just about watching a video once a year. A truly compliant and effective course has some very specific, very important parts. A solid refresher course is always going to follow these 4 steps. You start by reviewing all the core safety rules. Then, and this part is absolutely critical, you have to do hands-on practice. After that, you need a formal assessment to actually evaluate the operator's skills. And finally, you have to document every single step of the process.
And let me be crystal clear about this. Online-only training does not cut it. It does not meet the OSHA standard. The regulation specifically requires a practical, hands-on evaluation. An instructor has to physically observe the operator using the forklift safely in their real work environment. This part is completely non-negotiable.
So as we wrap this up, I want to kind of reframe this whole conversation. We've been talking a lot about timelines, 1 year, 3 years. But for OSHA, the date on the certificate is way less important than something else.
This is the ultimate question. When an OSHA inspector shows up at your door, this is what they want to know. Can your operator, right here, right now, prove they know how to operate that machine safely and that they understand the specific hazards of your workplace?
So you see, it all comes down to this.
The goal of any training program, doesn't matter if it's annual or every 3 years, isn't just to be compliant. The real goal is to ensure genuine, demonstrable competency. Safe performance, that's the real standard.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to really think about. Take a hard look at your own program. Is it just about getting a signature on a piece of paper to satisfy a date on a calendar? Or is it truly designed to build and prove that your operators are competent, confident, and safe every single day? The answer to that makes all the difference in the world.